everybody. Welcome to Grace and Fire. My name is Glenda. Well, I am so excited. I have Ginger from Not For Nothing Homestead with me today. And before I get started, I want to welcome you to this premiere. Ginger and I are going to be both in the chat, so please feel free to interact with us. But more importantly, I want you to go check out Ginger's page and make sure you subscribe to her. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Ginger up. Hey, Ginger, how are you?
Hi.
So like I said, you're in the chat. So everybody, please feel free to chat with us. We are pre-recording so that way we can sit with our audience and just really have that interaction with you guys.
That makes it so super fun.
It does. And it allows you and I to have a chat, and so I can learn more about you, and so can our audience members.
Yes.
And then to have that interaction one-on-one with each of you guys that are watching. I am so excited.
Me too.
So Ginger, you have a YouTube page called Not For Nothing Homestead, and I want to hear a little bit about when did you start your YouTube channel?
Over the summer, it was like late June or early July is when we started the channel. My husband actually kind of encouraged me because we were doing so much stuff around here and just the different things we were doing. And he was like, you should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, well, it took me a while. You know, first you got to kind of let the idea sink in. Then you think, how am I going to do this? Am I going to have stuff to put up that people are even going to care about, you know? And so then from there, it actually started with we were in midsummer garden season. So it started with all of the gardening stuff and has just moved and evolved to cooking. And I've met so many neat people through not putting myself in one box, you know, branching out in the different genres. So I have cooking, hunting, fishing. We went fishing over the summer too, a lot of gardening and homesteading. So
I love that. I love that you jumped into YouTube in the middle of gardening season too. Like you didn't just go, okay, I'm going to wait until I get my seeds and then I'll show. I'm glad you went full force. And
I just started.
I absolutely think that is phenomenal. And then you've branched out to all these different wonderful genres and channels and met so many people. Well, that's actually how I met you, was through Tony at Kettle Kitchen is where I met you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I met him through Last Chance Cook-Off, which was, I had actually watched him before I started my channel. I watched him because he hosted Jam It Up June.
Oh, yeah.
So I watched that whole thing. And then I think it was the very end of Jamming Up June, he kind of announced, well, I had subscribed to him. Then he kind of announced that he was going to start the Last Chance Cook-Off and was looking for smaller channels to do like either a spice rub or a blend or a sauce, to do like a little channel bump type smaller video. And I thought, well, gosh, I have like 80 subscribers or 90. I fit right in that profile. So, I mean, I called him right away and I was like, can I get in on that? And he was like, absolutely. And so since then, we have really built a very strong friendship, Tony and I. And you know, I would have never had it not been for YouTube. So it really does give you a wealth of people that you can reach out to, that you can talk to. And I've just met so many awesome people, including yourself.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate that because I equally feel the same way about you too. And I think the world of Tony and his channel too. And I think he just hit over 1K.
He did, like the week before last, and we were so my my husband really likes Tony. He thinks he's funny. So they have this little thing where my husband started calling himself Kathy Bates, his biggest fan. So it's like this huge joke now when Tony has like game night, or actually Dale and Lisa from Nine Acre Family Farms, they have a game night on Thursday night that is absolutely a blast. It is so much fun. And so you can log in and put your name so you show up on the screen in the game. And he put his name as Kathy Bates. I was like, okay, you two and this nickname and just y'all are too much. It was funny.
Oh,
But
and I
yeah,
love those nicknames. For
yeah.
anybody who watches the chats and you see Kettle Kitchen in, he does call me
Hmm.
my snobby canning sister, and I call him
Yes,
my snobby canning brother. And
yes.
please don't be offended by that.
Wait, I
Anybody,
think you added another
the cheese,
adjective. Cheesy, canning, snobby, cheesy, something like that. I don't know. I was like, y'all got too many
brother.
adjectives in there. I can't remember.
He tripped on some words, and he was talking about being cheesy, and I'm like, yeah, you are cheesy. So that's where that came from. Just being silly.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect and admiration for Tony and his channel. So
yeah.
please don't take
Yes. And
that
that's Kettle Kitchen, just for anybody who doesn't know. Tony at Kettle
as
Kitchen.
yes,
We'll give
yes,
him a little plug there.
a plug. But
Yeah.
we're actually here for you and for the Not for Nothing Homestead. So
Yeah.
I just finished up stalking your channel just a few minutes ago to make sure the videos I missed.
Uh-huh.
I do my best to keep up with everybody, and I just have
Oh,
to sit
it's
and touch on
hard.
a couple of things. Um,
Okay.
your watermelon tea. Um,
Yes.
hello,
Love
hello.
it. Oh.
I was like, I never even a million years thought about watermelon tea, and I am a tea person.
As a
And
hot tea.
yes,
People do it as a juice, but not as a tea. So I have actually, hold on.
ah,
That's dehydrated watermelon.
oh my gosh, I didn't never
So
thought of dehydrating it.
So I dehydrated it in strips, and then I just put it in my little coffee grinder, and voila,
Okay,
there you
I'm
go.
totally stealing that because in the winter I crave watermelon, and
Hmm.
maybe instead of using honey, I might try it with stevia and see what happens
Yeah,
too. But
yeah,
I am actually going to do that. And at our
yes.
grocery store, we have watermelons, and they're
Hmm.
expensive. Maybe just because I want to try it, I may have to just break
Yes,
down, pay the
and I
money.
did it. That is exactly why I did it. We had an overabundance, and I was like, "What am I going to do with this?" And then when I got down to the very end of, I think the actual watermelon video, one of the watermelon videos, I think I've done two, maybe even three. I don't remember. But I thought, well, I'm going to try it because I had done like a pulp or no pulp, kind of like
Mhm.
orange juice. Are you a
Oh,
pulp, watermelon pulp juice
yeah, I
person
remember
or
this.
no pulp? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took the part that had no pulp and I thought, well, I'm just going to try something here. So I put some in a pot, put some honey with it. And I was like, holy cow, this is to die for. I just quite stumbled on it quite by accident, just trying to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks, which is kind of my motto some of the times.
Oh my gosh, that to me is the way to do it because then
Hmm.
you're learning more about the different things that you can do with different produce. And
Hmm.
sometimes, like, man, I wish I'd thought about this years ago. Just like I'm sitting
Yeah.
here going, I had thought of this watermelon tea because that tea is seriously, I really might be doing this pretty soon. It looked
Yeah. Well, like
good.
you said, sometimes in the winter months, I've said it, and my daughter has actually said it to me as well. She's like, I am just craving a salad, or I am craving fruit. It's wintertime. We've been eating all this bulky stuff. I want some of that summertime. My body is telling me it wants some fruit right now. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of a way to get yourself a little fix, if you will. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love tomatoes, and
oh,
I like,
me too.
oh my gosh, Jess at Roots and Refuge has a saying,
Hmm.
store-bought tomatoes are disappointment. They
Hmm.
taste like disappointment, excuse me. Store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. That's her quote.
Yes.
I absolutely agree with that. So this year
Hmm.
I tomato again, and because I won't buy tomatoes in the wintertime because I just don't like them, I
Hmm.
freeze dried a bunch of tomatoes, and I'm sitting here going, "Oh, this is so good." I made spaghetti last night, and I put some of that
Yeah.
freeze-dried tomatoes to have that freshness, that summertime
Hmm.
you're craving for.
Yes.
Oh, it
I
was,
have a video where I sun dried some tomatoes and put
oh,
them in olive oil. It's actually the lead-in video. I think when you go on my channel, it's the first video that you see.
uh-huh.
I actually had a meltdown on that video. Have you
Oh,
ever had one of those? No, not a bad one. Like
no.
where you can't stop laughing. You keep thinking of the same thing that made you laugh and you can't recover. So the
Yeah.
whole end of that video is nothing but a giggle fest. I'm actually crying, going, okay, I'm going to let you guys go because I just can't get through this. It all started because I was filming the ending and I kicked the tripod and
Oh,
everything went
no.
everywhere. And I was like, I just kicked the tripod. But I left it all in there because I mean, I like to be real. This is real life, people. This is what really happened to me. And I just can't come back from it. So I'm just going to dip out now and y'all just have a good giggle. But back to the tomatoes, the sun dried tomatoes, I did those and put them in olive oil. And then Tony had Noodle November, and I had a recipe in there for cyclone pasta. And I used those sun dried tomatoes and the olive oil that was in there because it is such a good flavor. I went and got oregano. I have Italian oregano growing in my garden. Well, I had. Now everything is pretty much frozen. But I had Italian oregano and was it basil? It might have been basil too that I put in there, but I layered it. The dehydrated tomato or the sun-dried tomatoes, then some of the herbs, and then sun-dried tomatoes and herbs and sun-dried, and then I filled it all with olive oil. Well, I mean, if you go to the store and buy sun-dried tomatoes, that junk's expensive.
It
And if
really is.
you have an overabundance of tomatoes, that is a way to put a different spin on that tomato.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's what I did. And then I also over the year I had a bumper crop of San Marzanos. And
Oh.
I took when I did stewed tomatoes,
Mhm,
I took all the skins and put them in one pot
mhm.
and then put the tomatoes in another pot and I dehydrated the skins and then ground them in my little coffee grinder and I have tomato powder, which I use that in a different recipe as well.
I'll tell you, that tomato powder, I don't think people quite understand how good it is. I've
Oh,
done it in the dehydrator, and then I've done it in the freeze dryer, and I
mhm.
use it like tomato paste. Is that how you use yours?
Exactly. The recipe called for 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And
Mhm.
so I put one tablespoon of water to 1 tablespoon of tomato powder. And it actually needed just a little bit more. It needed like another half a tablespoon to get it to that pasty. But
Yeah.
I could have kept going and put more water in it and made tomato sauce
Oh,
if I
yeah.
wanted to do that. I mean, yeah, they don't realize how you can move it through
Yes.
that cycle, if you will. And then I used that in another recipe, a cozy fall soup recipe that I made a lobster bisque, and it needed
Ah.
tomato paste. So I was like, I get to use my sun-dried, I mean, not my sun-dried tomatoes, my tomato powder. I was so excited.
And I tell you, it tastes to me, perfectly honest, this is just my own opinion, that powder tastes better than actually buying the canned version of the paste or the,
Weird.
sauce. Now, I do buy
Mhm.
it. I don't wanna say I don't buy it, 'cause I do, but I
Yes.
personally think that it elevates that taste
Mhm.
even better. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to describe to people. I'm like, "Oh, don't get rid of those skins. Don't you put those
Yes.
in the compost."
No.
Oh,
Don't
it just
waste anything.
no, and it really, like, you will not be disappointed with that powder.
Mm-mm, not at all.
Oh
Not
my
at all. I really feel the same way, and it gives you that, when you had that tomato in the middle of the summer, it
mhm.
gives you that same true tomato flavor.
It really
So that's what I love.
I used a little bit of it, I make my own Southwest veggie soup that I pressure can. Well, it's not
Mm,
mine, but it's from a book, but I make it
yes.
because it's mine, right? So,
Yeah.
it is mine. I'm eating it.
Yes, that's it.
Although my kids have, realized that there is this soup there, and they're adults, and sometimes they like to, you know, shop the pantry, and they may
Yes.
start a little bit. But I use that powder in there, and I really think that
Mhm,
that's the secret to making it just a bit over the top because I wanted that real
mhm.
true tomato taste, and,
Yes.
it was tomato again for me. I still have tomatoes in my freezer that I need to process. I
Yes.
am not done, and gardening season for me ended about 2 months ago,
Yeah.
for the garden, and, yeah, I still have to process tomatoes. They're just
Wow, you're so lucky though. That I mean, that's if I had a couple bags of tomatoes in the freezer that I knew were from my garden, not, something from the store that I can just use to make something, whatever. But if I had those and knew they were from my garden, I would be like, I love this. I'm so excited.
I really am. I inherited a garden halfway through, so we have a
Mhm,
community garden, that the property it's not my land, it's my neighbor's land, and their
mhm.
farmland. So there's,
Yeah.
like, a section of property that became, like a community garden for anybody who wanted a garden. So it was me and a neighbor, and, I'm gonna leave what happened off of it, but I inherited half of a garden, and so there was all of those tomatoes. I had planned for what my family needs, and I had the
Yes.
right amount. But then I inherited about 25 other tomato plants, and I don't know the variety of them, but they made great paste tomatoes. And I made so much soups, and then I freeze dried a lot of it. I also made caramelized tomatoes, and then I
Mm.
tried those as well. The
Oh
it
wow.
so I have enough, maybe even into for next year. I'm still gonna grow tomatoes, but I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if necessarily I'm gonna have a bunch because tomato again for me. It was
Yes.
an onion again too. I was pushing that stuff out. I'm like, "Okay, I've got tons of
Yeah.
onion in my freezer now. You can please, please
Please take some.
take." It's on
It's funny that you were talking about Jess from Roots and Refuge because I was watching one of her videos over the summer after my tomatoes. Um, I had some that were just like splitting and cracking, and I know that's from the fluctuation of the weather and the watering. And she was having the same issue, and I was like, "Well, good. It's not just me; it's everybody." So one of her kids, and I can't remember what his name is, um, was picking up a tomato and they were out picking tomatoes and he brought one. He was like, ooh. And she said, yeah, we got to lower our tomato standards this year because they're all coming out like that. So we'll just cut that off. Don't put it in the basket. We're taking it inside. But you really did this year have to lower your tomato standards, but
Yeah.
still, they still tasted better than the ones you buy from the store.
Oh my gosh, I it's just so good, and for anybody who doesn't like tomatoes, try growing some. Just
Mhm.
start with maybe like the cherry tomatoes or a yellow tomato, a mild one, and then
Mhm.
see what you think. And if you don't like it, that's okay. Pass it on to somebody who
Yeah.
does. I know there are people be like, "Bring it, I'll take the
Yes,
tomato."
exactly.
But
I had cherry tomato plants everywhere, and I called them my snack trees because, I'd go out in the garden and I'd be walking around and I'd have one at the end of a row or one at the side, just to the side. I mean, they were growing so good. And, I'd get out there, I'd get a little munchy, and I'd just start eating the cherry tomato plant down.
I grew them too, and I did the same thing. But on a funny note, my chickens live near that garden, in the in-ground garden, and
Yes.
they realized that there were cherry tomatoes as well. And I may have just let them, because at the bottom, that's where they're at, for the chickens. So the bottom part of my tomato plants, every so often they were allowed to go out to that garden and pick their own cherry tomatoes, and they
Oh,
were happy
wow.
little hens. They're a little bit on the spoiled side. I
Yeah.
grew Schwarzenberry. It's like a huckleberry, I guess. Um,
Okay.
and so, no, that you really shouldn't be giving your chickens huckleberries or that kind of thing. But they'd go out and they liked them a little bit more than me this year. They didn't taste very good, so I'm like, if they get them, let them out and let
Yeah.
them eat. So they got to eat off the garden too. But man, back to the cherry tomato, they were just like in the hog heaven, eating those things.
Yes. Those things they are so good. They
And they're
really
prolific.
are. Yeah.
They're very prolific. Well, Ginger, there's something else that I know that you grow that this year was my first time, and I've got a prop.
Oh, a loofah. Very good. Look at you. Yay.
Okay, so I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So, okay, so can you hear the sound?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
so this one's ready to peel back. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what about this one? There's
That one,
no
yeah,
sound.
that one needs to dry out. I don't know if that one is going to be okay or not.
Okay, okay,
Just because it has to have a little bit of yellowish brown to it.
okay.
And that one looks like it didn't get quite that far. Now,
Mm-mm,
if you leave it somewhere like on a rack
mhm.
and let it kind of dry out so air circulates around it, it might dry out. I have a rack outside that I left mine out there, and some of them that were kind of that stage, they did okay. They weren't bad at all. And they, broke down, dried out, and it's the loofah part, the stringy, if you will. That
Right,
part has
fibers.
to kind of get stable, and then the inside meat, because it's actually like almost like a zucchini inside.
Mhm.
If you get it in the younger stages, you can eat it. I've never tried that,
I didn't
but
either.
there's a mid stage where the meat is still in there, and the stringy part, if you will, the loofah part is developing, and you can't get the two separated. It
Okay.
has to dry that meat part inside out. So you want it to be kind of a yellowy. If you go like that and you hear a crunch, then you've got some that's developed in there.
Mm.
Can you like mash it and feel if you have a crunch? If
Oh,
it's just
yeah,
mushy,
it's
you got a
cracking.
crunch? Okay, yeah, just put it on like a wire rack or something like in your garage and let
Okay.
it get some circulated air, and maybe it will go ahead and turn the brownish, the yellow and then the brown, and it might, if not, some of them that I got, once I mashed them and pulled it apart, ugh, ugh,
Mm.
it was gross. You're like, nah,
Okay.
I'll just chuck that. But
This one
the
right here.
other one is good. Yes.
Yeah,
That
it's
one is,
the little sound.
and save those seeds. I bet you when you bust that open, there'll be probably 50 to 100 seeds in that one loofah. They have
Wow.
so many seeds that they put out inside, and I can hear them. They're all dried.
Yeah,
So that's wonderful. You can save those for next year.
I'm really excited because I'm a soap maker, and
Mm.
I want to pour soaps in this. My understanding, I've never done it before, is that you have to get your loofah wet. I don't know if you've ever made soaps, but they say you're supposed to get your loofah wet and then, slice it however you're going to do it. And
Uh-huh.
then I'm going to do individual soap molds. I have some really pretty little ones. And so I'm just going to cut like pieces, like in like this way. Right. And so then
Yes.
be a
Yes.
section, and then pour the soap straight in there. I have family that likes the loofah soaps, so I'm
Hmm.
a soap maker. So I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do
I
with.
am not a soap maker
No,
yet, but I
okay.
am not afraid of taking on like a new hobby or skill, learning a new thing. So, no, but I have a ton of loofah back here that's dried that I could probably make loofah soaps out of. I just have not ventured in that direction yet. So,
Well, if
and
you,
mine loofahs, I will tell you, originally,
yeah,
um, and we had kind of discussed this in I think one of Tony's lives on Kettle Kitchen. When I originally started growing loofahs, it was not for the loofah.
okay,
They are very viney, and one of my leaves, I'm not kidding you, was like times the circumference of my head. I mean, it was like huge.
good.
Well, midday afternoon sun here is absolutely brutal. It really is. And there's not a lot of shade in the block garden that I have. So when I started like four, maybe it was like a 6 pack I had, and I had put 2 seeds in every one, just like you do with your seeds every year. Well, they came up like crazy. So I was like, oh my gosh. Then I learned that they don't like to be transplanted.
Mhm.
So if you want to plant them, you should plant them directly in the ground. So, I had to go out and coax them along and talk to them and sing to them, please, please grow. So initially we built like a little, I don't even know what to call it. It was like a little awning topping thing,
Like a
with
trellis?
T-posts, and then on the very top we put a cattle panel so
Yeah.
that I could put loofahs on either side at the end, and they would grow up and over and shade all of those plants in that dead middle, overhead heat that's so bad. So they did that. So then I had a couple of extras that were left. And I said, okay. So I went out to what I ended up calling Loofah Land. And I thought, well, I'll just put one in each back corner and see how they do in here, because they love, love, love the sun and the heat. And once
Mhm.
you get them established, you really don't have to. I did not water them much after they started vining really good. I,
Yeah.
I I let nature take over and do it. But they covered all of Lufaland. That was 2 plants. That's it.
I believe it.
They vined everywhere. They grew. I have so many loofahs. So what started out as I wanted something just like you see people do, like kind of a hoop, if you will,
Yeah.
a trellis type thing
Yes.
in the
Mhm.
gardens. I thought, well, I'll take that and shade the garden I have and just make it like a T, because I didn't have enough to go a hoop like this. And it worked so good. It shaded all of the plants I needed it to shade in the afternoon, which would normally have already been, you know, dried out. The leaves would have burnt. Um, it saved a lot of plants.
And
So,
there's a
and I got a bunch of loofahs off of it. So, I mean, it was a win-win.
it's a win-win. That's so smart to really think about the sun position and knowing what plants you're growing, and then using it kind
Hmm.
of in a sisters type setting where you
Yes.
know that something else is going to help this plant and
Hmm.
grow it like that. Next
The
year, we're
other thing I did at the block garden was for the sun, because the afternoon sun, I noticed the previous year, was really giving my peppers sun scald. But my
oh,
peppers did really well in the block garden. So when I planted them this year, at the very end, which would have been the side that faces the west, which is where the west sun would come down that afternoon, brutal, at the very end of the day in mid-June, just was killing the sides of the peppers. I planted a whole wall of sunflowers.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they have lots of leaves and they get really tall. Well, they came up first and they did exactly what I wanted them to do. They
Mm.
shaded those peppers, all those pepper plants from that afternoon sun, and I didn't have any more that had sun scald. So, I mean, knowing where your sun is going down when it's the worst and trying to find another plant that adapts to that is really good. Now, of course, the sunflowers, naturally, you're going to get the bonus because you're going to get the beautiful flower. I mean, who doesn't love a gorgeous
Yeah,
sunflower?
yeah, and
But
then
the
you can eat.
loofahs, I didn't expect all that. So everything was very positive this year.
Oh, so I wanna know, I wanna know your 5 top things that you, were successful at this year in your garden. So if you wanna talk about that, because this sounds like it was a good
Yes.
season.
Well, it was for some things and not so much for others.
Good.
So,
We'll hear about the others you just
mine,
discussed.
huh?
I wanna know the ones that you were struggle. No, I want that shine too, so because
Yes.
I have my
Well,
struggles.
and sometimes you put so much stock in something and you got to just drop back and refigure what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
I had a great San Marzano year. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, I couldn't have asked for a better tomato year. That was outstanding. I was flowing. I mean, I was just drowning in tomatoes, and that's okay. I made sauce. I dehydrated it. I made the sun-dried tomatoes. I mean, I figured out a way to preserve all of it so that
mhm,
hopefully it will last us till next growing season. So the
that's it.
San Marzanos,
Okay.
um, the loofahs,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, those are very good. I had struggled a lot with my Italian oregano the year before, and it really did fantastic this year. So Italian oregano just went crazy, and I love Italian oregano. So I dehydrated a lot of that.
Yeah.
Um, my lemon balm,
Oh,
I have
yeah.
two. I have two, and they ended up absolutely huge. I dehydrated lemon balm, lemon balm, lemon balm. I gave tea away, just crushed it up and gave it away as gifts. What's the other thing? Oh, squash.
You had
I
a
did
good
real
squash
not at the beginning,
year?
but
Okay.
when it was like the garden comeback time,
Mhm.
which I was almost 2 weeks before I started seeing more blooms, I was going to pull those plants because they're done. They're done. I don't know what else to do with them. Oh, and cucumbers. I had a good cucumber year too. But the squash, at first, it was a struggle. You got the squash bugs,
Mm.
and they will just tear it down to nothing. So,
Yeah.
but then it got so hot, and I guess the squash bugs left. They said, "See ya, it's too hot for us." And it came back and I got huge yellow squash in like September,
Oh my
the
gosh.
beginning of September. So that was actually a pleasant surprise. I dehydrated it, I cooked some, I made a squash soup. That was
Ooh,
delicious.
I bet
Um, yeah, so I'm going to say those were my best ones this year.
it was a struggle bus for me with the squash this year. I planted
Mhm.
butternut squash. I planted about 30 of them. Do you know how
Mhm.
many I
How many? I planted some butternuts and I never even got them to get over like this tall. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened.
not a year for it. Now I did get
Mm-mm.
acorn squash. I was really surprised on that. I got no, wait a minute. I got 2 pumpkins and they were
Oh,
like they were this big. And I'm like, "Oh, aren't you cute?" So
yeah.
I'm a pumpkin grower now because I got 2 little ones.
I don't know
But
if do you know Andrea at Digging for Health?
I know of her, yeah. yeah, but not personally or anything, but yeah, I know her channel.
She's about, I think, 3 or 4 hours south of me.
Okay.
She had a volunteer or two pumpkin that got left out there, or seeds or something, and she is swimming in pumpkins. And yeah, and I'm like you, I couldn't even get them to get this tall.
So maybe
I
the
don't
moral of
know.
the story, go put some seeds out for the winter and let them just
Yeah,
sit, and just go,
just
you can
throw
eat
it out there.
what's here.
Just
I
throw
may
it out there and hope for the best next year.
actually do that because my chickens
Yeah,
are not eating all the pumpkin seeds. So I might scoop some of that up and
yes,
put
yes.
it
She had
out.
a, yeah. I would have
Yeah,
loved to have had a good, even a little one of my butternut squash the year before I did spaghetti squash. And I did pretty good with them. I mean, I didn't get a whole bunch, but I only had like 4 plants. So, but I would like to, I'm going to try again next year with the spaghetti squash and the butternut squash.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of new gardeners will give up on gardening. They just kind of like stop and they're like, we're not going to do this again because this year we didn't get XYZ. So we're not going to do this again. I like that you said, I'm going to do this again next year. And
Yeah.
so if you're a new gardener, let that be of encouragement.
Hmm.
Everybody has that struggle, and
Yeah.
I've been gardening for over a decade and I had things that did not do good this year. And this took me
Me too.
4 years. 4 years. I'm on my fourth year and I did not give up. So what else did you struggle with this year? I'm just curious.
Oh, well, I had the squash and then I put zucchinis in the ground and I couldn't get anything to come up of those either.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
had the zucchini. We did not have a great potato year at all. That was completely a disappointment, or a good onion harvest. I mean, we had a little bit, but none of them got of good size. So I told my husband, I said, next year, you're in charge of the potatoes and the onions. I'll take care of the rest of the stuff, but those are your two babies, and I want you to try your hand at them.
Mhm.
Um,
I
so the
know.
zucchini, potatoes, onions, I can't remember what else I planted that didn't do well, that I was kind of, now I think a lot of people had this. I had some seeds
Mhm.
for lettuce that I had gotten from a company and they made good on it. I planted the whole pack of seeds of lettuce of two different varieties. Not one single one germinated. None.
Oh my. Oh
Yeah.
my.
But again, I contacted them. They made good on it, sent me some more from a different lot. So hopefully, those will, yeah. By that time, by the time everything else is coming up and getting really big, you're already 2 to 3 weeks behind on what that was. So I
Mhm.
was like, not only have I lost 2 packs of seeds, which they're not that much, but I mean, come on, when you're
Mhm.
buying, a butt ton of seeds, it
Right.
adds up.
Well, that
And
is
not only had I lost that, but I'd also lost 3 weeks. You can't get that back.
no. No, no. And that is your groceries. I always say your seeds count as your groceries.
Hmm.
It's a way to save money, but yeah, if it doesn't pan out, the seeds are not germinating, that is lost time. And I'm glad that the
Hmm.
company made good on that. That's good to hear.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but that
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And back to your point about that being your groceries. I mean, gardeners, if you try and fail at something, try again. You don't want, I mean, otherwise, the gardeners to begin with would have starved if they gave up.
Oh my
Just
God.
keep
Yeah.
trying.
Yes, and don't be afraid to try new things. This year for me, because I inherited the whole plot now of garden space, uh, it's a 30 by 40, I believe is what I measured it out as, plot. I'm doing cover crops for the first time because the person I gardened with, um,
Hmm.
always wanted, I'm not against tilling, but that's all he ever did was tilled. He never put amendments in the soil, never cared
Mhm.
about the health of the soil. And I want a healthy plot for
Mhm.
my plants. So this year I actually have clover, a type of a radish. I want to say it's daikon radish, and
Uh-huh.
the red rye, winter rye. And so I have
Yeah.
that growing currently right now. My chickens go out and they're like, "Ooh!" So they're nibbling on it. I'm like, "Ladies, ladies,
Yeah.
ladies."
Stop.
For you.
Another good cover crop is purslane. 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 I have
Oh,
some seeds. I haven't grown it before, but it's also edible. So
maybe
it's a
that's
great cover crop. Huh?
for next year. I may have to
Yeah.
do that because the girls, I do. I'm my girls are kind of like spoiled, and I know it. I know it. I let them
She said
do.
it's the first problem, the first thing with problems is admitting you have a problem. So I
I have
already know that part. I have a problem.
I have a real problem with the girls, and it's my fault. It's not their fault. I call them the bougie city slicker chicks, even though they don't live in the city. Um, that's a whole nother story about the girls, but they like to go out.
Bougie chickens.
They are the bougie chickens. I have a video shorts clip, and I took Coco. I've named them all. So I have Coco, Chanel, Minnie, Midnight, Raven, Miss Contender, Miss
Oh,
Tweety. They're
you
all
need
named.
a Judy and a Burke.
Yeah, I do, but I don't have the room to expand right now. So I want to
Yeah.
expand. Um, but so my neighbors allow me to put chickens on their property because in the city they are banned. But when you look at the chicken coop, you think that they're in the city because it's that close to my property.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and I have the best neighbors. I still, in fact, I told
It
one of
sounds like it.
yeah, I said, I would just want to do a pinch me. I have chickens, pinch me. And my city knows that I own chickens. I actually got turned in,
Oh,
and they told me, they're like, oh, they said, he goes, "You're good. I see where the
yes.
property line is. They're in the county. Don't you worry." Like, he was super
Oh,
kind,
that was
but
awesome.
yeah, so I'm very blessed and very fortunate. But anyhow, so back to my little cocoa story. So I took the corn was this year, it was what they grew. And when they took it all down, of course, there's corn that spits out because it's field corn and it's everywhere. And
Mhm.
chickens typically like it. And my
Yes.
neighbors have chickens and their chickens like the corn. So I'm like, okay, so let's just pick up Coco. So I took Coco out and I'm like, are you a city slicker or are you a country girl? And I'm like, they want you in the country. They don't want you in the city. You're banned. And I set
Poor
her down.
thing.
I set her down. I'm like, what are you, girl? And she literally turned around and beeline right back to the coop. She didn't want anything to do with that corn. So I tried a different bird, not in the video, but I tried it again. She did the same thing. She turned around and she beeline back. Well, my neighbors came down, off the hill, and they were collecting some of the corn cobs that didn't get, collected. And so
Yeah.
I showed my neighbors personally because they don't watch my YouTube channel, but uh, I showed him. I picked up different birds and I went, "What, watch." Well, the husband goes, "Your chickens are broken."
Your chickens are broken.
They're broken. I'm like, "Yeah, they're just a little on the spoiled side, and they know that, mom gives them their feed, and then they get to go off
Mhm.
the garden." They get I
Yeah.
do share with the girls, because I only have
Yeah.
and of course, if you have a bigger flock, they can do serious damage to your garden, but
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
and I'm okay with certain sections, but they are chipping away at that cover crop, and I'm like, "Well,
Yes.
I would like that cover crop, ladies." You
I
know?
am actually going to do that next year, put the purslane down because it, does what a cover crop is supposed to do, as far as keeping the soil moisture in there in that heat. And this summer was, I don't know if you had the struggles with the heat and, just damaging a lot of the plants and some of the fruit that was coming off the plants. But And the fact that purslane is also edible, like in salads and stuff like that, I think that's actually a really good thing. So I like when I can get a twofer out of something. If it has one purpose and it gives me something in return, then I'm all about doing it again.
Absolutely. Well, now we didn't have it. We are in Indiana, and I'm going to say hopefully next year we won't have that problem either.
Yeah.
We had a lot of rain at the beginning of our spring crop time, and so
Hmm.
it flooded out. And then after that, it was about average for us. But I know many people across the United
Hmm.
States, it was a struggle, and my heart goes
It
out
was.
to each and every one of you guys for that.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to go, ha ha, my garden. No, because
Yeah.
we have years like that too.
Yeah.
But
There's another thing that I found that helped save me over the summer, not just building the loofahs up and planting the sunflowers where I did. I'm sure you know of or have heard of In My Gardener.
oh yeah, oh
Okay,
yeah.
his core planting method
Mhm.
is what saved me because he only waters his garden like 3 or 4 times, I think, in a season or a
Yeah,
month or something like that. But
Jesus.
that
Mhm.
he saved me. He saved, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't know this for a fact, but I have a feeling that second wind of my squash
Mhm.
was because of that. Because
Absolutely.
we used that core planting method out there. And by the time it had gotten so stinking hot and all the squash bugs had gone, those taproots had gone down far enough to where they had hit that straw in there. And it was already, well, when we put it in, it was already well decomposed and like goopy, so it held all of that, and that's where they were getting it from. And girl, I got some big squash. I
Oh my
was so happy, but I I can only attribute it to that. I really
God.
can, because there's other plants nearby that those beds were already established before I discovered the core planting method. Um, and they didn't do as well, and they didn't have a comeback like that. So
Right.
that's another little tidbit. Take it for what you want.
Sure, I
The
say
core
go
planting method is good.
yeah, yeah. I think I missed that video, but you're not the first person I've heard talk about this core planting method that My Gardener came out with. And I hear
Mhm.
nothing but remarkable things about it. And I need to go back and take a look at it myself and see how I can apply that. I have a
Mhm.
raised and it's really big. It's a Vita garden, and
Mhm.
I did buy it, and I bought two of them, and then I connected it, and then
Mhm.
I did the hugelkultur method, and I really think having those logs in the bottom of it have helped. And then I
Yes.
newspaper in there and leaves and chicken manure and just like and then let it set through the winter. Of course, you put your soil
Mhm.
and your compost on top, all the good stuff. Uh,
Yes.
and during the dead of the summer, I didn't have to water that. Oh, and I forgot. So there's two compost bins in the center of the raised bed, and
Mhm.
just throw your stuff in there, and you don't even have to till it or nothing. You just leave it alone, and it leaches out the nutrients and the moisture too from all of that. And
Mhm.
but there's always room for improvement. So I really do need to go look at it. But I didn't have any problems with my garden. I'm trying to figure out a better method for the in-ground bed because it's not my property. I'm not going to put
Mhm.
raised beds up on their property. I'm just going to put
Yeah.
it straight into the ground.
Mhm.
I'm looking at in the spring taking a weed eater and chopping down all that cover crop and then putting a silage tarp on top and letting it
Mhm.
sit for a couple of months and kill it out and see what happens. I hear a lot of good bacteria happens underneath of that, and that really kind of helps. I'm also adding chicken manure out to it, do your own research. I don't want to tell anybody what to do, but this is what I'm doing. I'm putting
Yeah.
manure out there during the winter
Hmm.
months and just going to let it set. I know it's better if it's composted, but it's just something that I'm just like in a quick, let me get it out. We're in the middle of winter and I just don't want to be
Hmm.
collecting manure. And I don't have a
Yeah.
place for a proper compost bin. So that's how I'm amending it, but I would like to figure out something to do with the moisture. It is clay soil.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I have clay soil too.
but it's really good in nutrients. I don't have a problem with the deficiency. No, I haven't tested the soil, so I'm sure there's something somebody could come up with.
Yeah.
But my plants thrive in there. So, but I want to be able to for that dead of summer issue. I
Yeah.
know we in some years in past we've had it's been a struggle bus with the moisture level.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to figure that out myself. And I'm still growing and I'm still learning as a gardener. And
Hmm.
you never stop
All the
learning.
time. All the
Yes.
time. I had gone at one point, and I think one of the core method videos, he also mentions
Oh,
intercropping instead of companion planting. So
okay.
I did that, and I'm going to plan it better next year. But I did that, and it worked out really good, which is just, things that grow high, kind of like these sisters. Things that
Yes.
grow high and then things that grow down. You can put them closer together.
Yes.
And who's to say that one thing doesn't grow well besides something else? I mean, who did that plant tell you that they didn't like that other plant and they're not going to grow it? They
Right.
may not off put the bugs that you're wanting to keep away. I mean, I get that, but yeah. So I kind of like his thought process in that as well. So, but
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I've gone on enough about him as well. Him and Tony.
That's okay. I think it's good though that you're sharing this because these are methods that you're using and this is where you've gotten your inspiration from. So
Hmm.
you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
One of the things I do in the past is I've grown sunflowers, like really tall ones, and then I've put string beans next to it, and I let that be my trellis, and I let them just grow
Yeah.
up. And then it's so much easier on my back. I'm not having to like bend over and get
Hmm.
beans. They're like right at the right level for me, and I didn't have to buy a
Yes.
cow panel, and I didn't have to buy you know, the steak or yeah, the stakes to put it in. It
Hmm.
grows up. And then sunflowers are supposed to, this is my understanding, help the soil too. It pulls out all of
Hmm.
the toxins out of the soil. So it's kind of like a win, 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 win. And
Yes.
that's the way I like to do things.
That was one more thing I had a good success with too. Long beans.
Oh, what kind of long beans
Those
did you grow?
they call them. They have three different names. They're called asparagus beans, long beans, or noodle beans.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm familiar with the Chinese long noodle.
It, those. Oh my goodness! And some of them, I measured one that was like it was the length of my torso.
Oh,
The
yeah.
bean one.
Hmm.
They grow so easy, but you have got to give them a big trellis to go up. But that was
Absolutely.
another thing we had really, really good success with.
I sent I don't know if you know Ormsby Farms, but I sent Casey some Chinese long noodle beans this year,
Hmm.
and he tickled me to pieces with his videos. And he said that he wasn't sure about the Chinese long noodle, but I had been growing them, and I like them because you don't have to string them. You treat them just like green beans. You can
Hmm.
up, you can freeze them, you can freeze dry, you can dehydrate, however you normally process your green beans, you treat it just like it, but there's no
Hmm.
strain. And you
Yeah.
get a big bang for your buck, so to speak.
Hmm.
So I sent him some, and he said him and his family weren't really sure about these Chinese long noodles. But over the summer, my husband watched it too, and we both just laughed with joy, just how excited he was over these things. And I had a little secret that I didn't tell him until the end. Um, I forgot to plant my own Chinese long noodle beans this year, so I didn't
Oh
get it.
no. Oh, I'm so sad for you. They're so good.
They are. I have seeds for next year. I'm okay because I
Yeah.
didn't get them all of mine, so I have some for next year. I also
Yes.
want to pick. I planted them, um, bush beans, and
Mm.
I forgot about them. My life is sometimes can be just chaotic and hectic and whatever. And I went out to the garden, and I'm like, oh, I have seeds for next year. So
Oh.
if they next year, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it
That's
happens. It happens.
life, and you have to
Yes.
give yourself grace and
Mm.
move forward and think of the positive. So I have seeds for next year. It wasn't a
Uh,
fail.
uh,
I was
That's
just wrong.
awesome.
Hey, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. I wanted to touch on another video I saw.
Okay.
It was Don't Throw It Away. So entitled Don't Throw It Away. And it was where you took your butcher block table or
Mm-hmm.
butcher block and made it into a table, rather. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm a woodworker, and I saw that and I went, oh my gosh, I would have used that for a table. I would have used that. My husband and I take old twin size beds, and
Mm-hmm.
we make benches and we donate them to either family members, friends, or to nonprofits for a fundraiser.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
that butcher block caught my attention, and I went, just the I have this little thing, that's me. I
Yeah.
love woodworking, and I know that that's
Yes.
so strange that's I'm a woodworker, but we've built so many benches, and that
Mhm.
butcher block, girl, what a gorgeous table.
Yes,
Oh,
it's actually my desk now is what it's turned into, which I am so excited about, because it's beautiful. It was a countertop when we
mhm.
redid the kitchen from inside, um, well, from one area and moved it to the other. Um, we decided to go with a regular, just I don't even know what you call it, but a regular countertop, not granite, but just a regular countertop you can get at Lowe's or whatever. We
Right.
decided to do that on one side, and then keep the butcher block on the other side. Well, that piece of butcher block, we had stained it and put a finish on it, and that was on top of a couple of cabinets that we then moved out here. So I was like, okay, number one, that junk's expensive. Number two, that is beautiful. And
Yes.
we simultaneously were looking at maybe trying to do something as far as getting a desk for me out here in the kitchen so I can have like, a little YouTube recipe set up, all of that out here, and it would kind of double. So we had looked at Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, looking for desks. And then when we started moving that stuff, I was like, can you turn this into a desk? I mean, there's no way we're throwing this away. And I'm not going to just lean it up against the wall for a while. And so he was like, okay, let's go to Home Depot. We'll get some legs and some braces. And he made me a desk.
I
Beautiful.
love that. And
Yes.
it's so custom. Like, I really
Hmm.
like custom furniture in a home,
Hmm.
and it has character too, because that was your countertop. So I'm sure there's
Yes.
little character marks everywhere that makes it just so beautiful. And you're
It tells
right.
a story.
It and it's living in your home, and
Hmm.
I I love upcycling things.
Yeah, me
Just
too.
that. Oh, what else have you upcycled? I'm just kind of being nosy.
Okay, so you're gonna laugh,
You can
but I'm one of those I'm one
I
of those
won't.
kind of people that I think I even said it in one of my videos. If the dog stood still long enough, I'd probably throw some dirt and plant some seeds on her back. I will throw dirt and seeds in anything. I took
Absolutely.
a grill And we had every year when I garden, I give myself like one or two fun things. One new thing to branch out my taste buds, vegetable wise, and then one fun thing. Like last year was birdhouse gourds, which, oh, the top fell off.
Oh, that is beautiful.
The top fell off, but yes, my husband put some stain on it after it dried out. But this is the same thing like a loofah. I mean, you just hollow it out, dump out all the seeds. So this is a birdhouse gourd. That was 2 years ago. That was my fun thing to plant. And this past year, after doing research on the loofahs, that was kind of my other fun thing to plant that wasn't going to be, edible. So I got these seeds. Well, my husband and I were roaming through a seed book, and they were tangerine peppers. So they're kind of like, I was like, I wonder if they taste like tangerines. They're orange.
Okay.
They look like those, when you go to the grocery store and you get the red, yellow, and green snack peppers in a bag.
Uh-huh. Yes.
That's what they had, a beautiful pepper, but not the kind of pepper, onion, celery side. It kind of had a sweeter side. They were so good. And we will plant those again for sure because we both love them. As a matter of fact, one of our last chance cook-off videos, we did kebabs
Oh yeah,
with
I remember that video.
with those orange tangerine peppers, and then also with the purple bell peppers that I grew. But I put those seeds in a grill. That was an old grill. It was just an old charcoal grill, where you lift the top and it's just the small area. We took the rack out. I filled it with dirt. I planted the seeds. And that's what I grew those tangerine peppers
I
in.
don't think that's funny. I'm not going to laugh at that. You know what? That's actually really brilliant because at the base of those grills, it's already got the drainage holes. You don't have to add
Yes.
anything. And you know what? I think when you add something whimsical to your garden, that
Mm-hmm.
just makes it so much more fun to be out there and to go,
Yeah.
hey, I want you to think outside the box. Look how
Yes.
cool this is. I mean, people use all kinds of things. I took an old chair and I turned it into a pot holder that holds my flowers for the summer. And so I
Yeah.
had this
Oh, nice.
um, on my porch. It's now become a bird perch because I took it out to the chickens. So now they perch on it. But that's okay. I need something to get the girls up. But
Yeah.
I love to grow things in unique things. I've seen old washing machines
Mm-hmm.
used. I've
Yeah.
seen urinals. I mean, of all things, I've seen toilets. I mean,
Yes.
the limit. And you know
I
what?
did
That
that one year. I put a really nice begonia in a toilet, and my
oh,
husband
good.
was like, "No, okay, I'm all for everything, but that is where I draw the line. I am not having a toilet pot holder in the front yard. No, thank you." I was
Oh,
like, "Okay, so I'll put it to the side." So I put it to the side, but I actually did do that with the
oh, I
toilet.
love it. I love it. I think those are so fun. I mean, if
Yes.
you know what? Don't be afraid if you don't have something in your home that needs to be upcycled. Don't be afraid to go to your local thrift store and check
Hmm.
out what they've got, or maybe there's the home rehome stores too. Some
Hmm.
I didn't grow anything in it, but you can take a chandelier and you can
Hmm.
put solar lights and hot glue it into it, and you can have a beautiful chandelier with these solar lights, and it's just
Oh,
up.
yes.
You can spray paint it. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
The other thing, go to garage sales. I mean, or just take a drive on a country road and see what somebody's throwing out. Anybody have ever done that? Because that's me.
Yes.
That's actually where we got a lot of our headboards to make these benches. Is they were on the side of the road. People were going to throw them away, and
Yeah.
you
My
you
husband doesn't throw anything away anymore. He comes to me first and he'll say, "Is there anything you can plant in this before I get rid of this? Do you want to save this for anything you can?" I'm like, "Yeah, hello." The
Smart.
only thing I did do that this this past year when I set up Loofah Land, I set it up to actually be a food garden.
Mm.
And I did not realize that you cannot uh, border your raised beds or any raised beds with railroad ties
Oh, I didn't know
because they
that. Okay.
have some sort of an oil that they're treated with, and it will leach out into your ground and it will leach out into the plants.
Okay.
So we had actually made the entire inside of Loofah Land already had railroad ties in there. So I was like, oh my gosh. And I already had some plants that were popping up. So I had to drop back and punt, as they say,
Yep.
figure something else out. So loofah land became like a flower hut. It had the loofahs, and then under that lattice that's up on the top was all of the flowers that I like. I had a couple of begonias, and I had some twining flowers. I can't remember what they're called, but it ended up turning into that. So yeah, I learned a lesson, a valuable lesson this year.
We all live and learn, and I like how you
Mhm.
bounce back with flowers because that's good for the bees, which will turn around and pollinate your vegetables and fruits that are maybe in a close by raised
Yes,
garden.
yes.
So I love that you thought about that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I've got this space. What am I
Hmm.
with it? And
And
now
those
my
plants were already like 6 weeks old. So again, there's 6 weeks I had lost. I had to start all over again with some of the things. And the zucchini is one of the things that I had to start all over with. So that might have been what it was, but I couldn't dig out those plants that were in those railroad tie beds because it had already rained several times. They'd been there quite a while. And I was like, I can't take those out and move them because they're already maybe uh, contaminated or what have you.
yeah, when you don't know the history of that, I can see
Yeah,
that. You know,
yeah,
I've made mistakes too, and
mhm.
um, again, give yourself grace and move forward. You know,
Yes,
and find something else that's better. And if you know somebody who is making that mistake, gently tell them, hey, maybe think about it a different way, but be kind.
yes.
It's
Don't
easy.
don't don't be an alarmist, but do say you probably don't want to eat that. Yes,
I'm thinking of you and your health, and I want the best for you. And yeah,
yeah,
but you know what? Flowers are a crop too that we don't think about. And we always think let's get the production for the food and let's keep adding. And personally,
hmm,
I didn't grow enough flowers for things to get pollinated as well as they should have. And I think that was one of my problems this year. My plan next year, I went out and I had a zinnia row, and I took a
mm,
paper bag and I just chopped those heads off, and I left them in the paper bag to dry out. They were already in that process of drying, so it wasn't like I took a fresh one. And
yeah,
next year, it's gonna be completely fenced in with zinnias. I'm gonna do the
yes,
whole the perimeter, and then somebody I was talking to a local farm about my problems with my pumpkins because I got two, and that's not
hmm,
that many, and he's
yeah,
asked me, did you have enough pollinators out there? What, because obviously there's a problem worldwide shortage with the bees and whatnot. And I said, well, I had a zinnia row. And he goes, did you
mhm,
plant it there? And I went, no. And he said,
yeah,
well, what we like to do is we plant a lot of flowers around our pumpkins, and that seems to help pollinate them. And it goes
yeah,
with any squash. So next year we are going to go big or go home. I mean, that's my theory,
yes.
and I'm going to make a
I
fence.
will tell you, in my block garden, the block garden is actually made of cinder blocks.
Okay.
So it has the two sides on them because we have them turned up.
Hmm.
And one side I planted marigold. in
Oh,
just one little section. So you know how big that is, right?
oh
That
yeah.
plant, you can go back on, I think, one of the summer videos and see it spanned widthwise. It went over, I would say, probably 4 to 5 cinder blocks. That's how wide it got. Yes, it branched out. There were marigold flowers everywhere. The pollinators absolutely loved it. And just from that one plant. And bonus, you can make marigold tea or you can eat them. I actually took the petals and put them in salads. They taste very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
They are amazing. I was a little bit concerned about eating marigolds for the first time several years ago, and I
Hmm.
was surprisingly shocked with how good they are. I mean, they're
Yes.
great in salads. I,
Yes.
and then the other thing I do with them is I go ahead and I dry them out. I just have a drying
Mm.
rack, and I make nesting box herbs for my bougie chickens. Um,
The bougie chickens.
So I have a blend that I make, and one of the things that they like is the marigold, and they'll eat it, and it helps their eggs turn a lot brighter, like a deeper orangey color, because that's a
Hmm.
natural color thing. I don't know with all the science in it, but anyhow, uh,
Yeah.
my girls will sit in the nest boxes during the middle of winter and just eating fresh herbs from Mama's garden. Yeah, so yeah, so they like marigolds as well. But I also add
Yes.
mint and lavender and mint, lavender, sunflower petals, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
they're a little bit spoiled.
We're just
Well,
giving out all kinds of good information today, aren't we?
we are. You know what? This is where it's at. If you want to learn something, come talk to
That's
both of
right.
us. Knowledge with all this wonderful
Yes.
gardening and preserving and making tea
Hmm.
on my
Yes,
radar.
all the different teas. Yes.
Oh
I'm so
my God.
excited. You have to let me know when you make your watermelon tea how you like it.
I'm going to. I'm going to. I did see the cost of a watermelon, and I will be honest, it will be very expensive. So it will be worth trying it. Um,
Yeah,
so my local big box store has them for $8.99 each. I'm
I'm
gonna
not
bite the
surprised.
bullet just because I want to try it. Sometimes you have
Yeah.
things just to um, see what you think. I did do a lot of teas this year, and
Mhm.
in fact, this mug right here, I was finishing up. That was lemon balm tea and a little
Mm,
bit of stevia. And lemon verbena in it.
yes.
That was good.
Nice.
I think you
Yes.
always try growing your own herbs for your teas as well. It's
Mhm.
so good, and it's
Oh, yeah.
the plants or the seeds are so much cheaper than actually buying the teas in the store.
Mhm.
They got a fresher taste. It's hard to
And
describe.
I know that you said you watched Jess from Roots and Refuge. I don't know if you saw over the summer, the girl that's in a lot of the videos. Uh, did you see the basil tea? I
Did
made that. That
did
is jam up. It is
is
so good.
Now I did not get any basil from my garden next year because I now own a freeze dryer.
Mm,
I am going to be going hog wild with the herbs. I have
mhm.
decided because I grew some herbs this year, just like my normal, and then I have to buy seasonings, right? And
Yes.
so with the freeze dryer, things were off the chart. But one of them that I was missing was that basil. And I saw that
Mhm.
video and it blew my brain.
Mhm.
I like basil. I like it
Yes.
a lot. But
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's on my radar for next year when I get all these
We
herbs.
went my husband and I, when we went fishing over the summer, that was what I took on the boat. He took waters and I took the basil tea in the cooler. And it was so refreshing to be out there on the boat. It's hot, you're fishing,
Yes.
you're just sitting there and then to drink that basil tea, it was absolutely delicious. So
Oh,
good.
I can imagine. It to me, it just I wish I had had the basil because I would have done it, but
Mhm.
that looks so I
And
love
so
different
simple. Oh my god, it's like the watermelon tea. It's so easy.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. So many channels out there that have given
Yes.
so many good ideas. And,
Mhm.
another one that I like to watch is Acre Homestead. And I don't know if you've seen that channel.
Who's that?
Acre Homestead. I don't remember her name. I'm
I
so
don't think
sorry.
so.
Oh, she's a pretty big channel.
Oh,
And
is she? Okay.
she's kind of the Roots and Refuge size almost,
Mm.
not quite, but kind of think along that way. Um,
Yeah.
she does she's pregnant right now, and so I'm amazed by her energy levels being pregnant, like she's way out here. And I like how she meal preps things,
Mhm.
gives those recipes. And one of the things that I learned the other day, and I never even thought of it. I mean, it was like, duh, Glenda. Um, so I go to the store and I buy frozen biscuits, right? I can make them from
Mhm.
scratch, but whenever I'm half awake and I have to cook, I'm not going to sit and, you know, half awake,
Yeah.
right? She made like over 30 of them. She's doing them for postpartum. She made her own biscuits and she froze them herself. And I thought,
Yeah.
why haven't I been doing this whole time? I mean, biscuits while I'm awake and I've got
Yes.
all my energy, and I have a really good recipe, that was passed down.
Yeah.
And
I have all my faculties at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I could just slam some in the oven and freeze them individually.
I sat there and I went, "Oh." And then the other thing she did, and I'm guilty of this, okay, but she pre-cooked bacon and froze it. And I went,
Yeah.
I never knew you could do. I just bought the. It's expensive. I go to Costco and I buy it there, and it's good. It's really good bacon,
Yes.
but really expensive. And I could go
Yeah.
buy the other bacon from a local farm, and because I do
Mhm.
have a connection for a family member that has a farm,
Uh-huh.
buy and support local and pre-cook. I've
Yeah.
been homesteading for so long, but I don't know everything, and that's why I
Yeah.
like to go meet all these channels and even the smaller ones. I mean, I'm a small
Mhm.
channel, um,
Yeah.
you learn so many things, and you're like, why wasn't I thinking of this?
Ye
Like it
I
just
learned something too, from Tuliloo Creates. What is
okay,
her name? Linda? Linda at Tuliloo Creates? I think is her name. But she's a pretty big channel. She was doing frying bacon and putting it up in the freezer, but she did it like in a checkerboard weave pattern. So it comes out stuck together like in the oven. It
okay,
comes out, it's all stuck together in one piece, and it is the perfect square to go on a BLT. Ready made right there. I had never seen that done before. That was, I know, it was like, what?
yeah.
So I did it, and I put wax paper in between them. I have a couple of those stacked in the freezer now.
Oh,
Already cooked. All I got to do is take them out, slap them on a BLT, and I'm done.
oh my gosh, I love that. And I wrote her name down, so I'm gonna go back and look her up because
It's a number two,
okay,
and then Lee, Lee, and then Lou, Lou, creates. Two
okay,
Lee Lou creates is how you
okay,
do it.
okay. I'm gonna go back and look her up because to
Yeah.
me it sounds so amazing. And anything to simplify my life, I'm all about it because
Mhm.
I have to do things a little bit differently, just because I am full-time caregiver. So
Yeah.
I do get some time to do things, that, allow me to, like the gardening. I get to go out to the garden, and then I do a lot of preserving and then my chicken keeping, but I'm always looking for quick meals and things to like throw
Mhm.
in the freezer. So that way, on those nights that I have just like all the medical appointments at the end of the day, you don't want to cook. I mean, you're like
Mhm.
running, done, right? And
Yes.
so I am always looking for simple, quick,
Something like
easy,
that.
and you're like, okay, I think that's why I like canning too, like the soups and
Yeah.
the sauces and stuff,
Hmm.
even though that takes time, but by the time, like, it's all put together nicely, you just pop that lid, or if I'm not feeling good, it's like, pop that lid and I can take care of me, you
Yes.
know what I mean? So,
And see, and that's good for the bacon, like in the middle of the summer when you've been out to the garden all day and you're all sweaty and yucky and nobody wants to cook. Who wants to stand in front of a hot stove on top of all that? Just take that bacon out, BLT, and some chips, and hello,
oh,
there's a nice dinner or
oh,
a nice late lunch.
I would have it breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I love BLTs like that much. I mean, that should have been my middle name, Glenda BLT.
Yes, I do love them too.
There's a little bit of good mayonnaise on top, and you're good to go.
Yes.
Well, hey, Ginger, I got a question. I have a pot full of
Okay.
and they're random. Would you like to do like a little random question?
Sure. That
All right.
sounds like fun.
All
Oh,
right.
I don't know what I'm gonna get.
There's no wrong answer. So let me say
Okay.
this. Okay. And
Okay.
if you're not comfortable with answering a question, you are welcome to say pass because the most important thing is that you're having fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right. All right. Got a handful right here. And so
Okay.
still some left in here. I didn't take them all. So
Okay.
okay, so the first question is texting or talking?
Um, I would say talking because I love my headphones that I always use, and it's easier for me to just talk real quick than to sit down and text all that because usually I'm doing something and my hands are busy. So I'm going to say talking.
I'm with you on that one. It's a struggle bus with adult kids and that don't
Yeah.
understand that. I'm like, no, I can't. Okay, so dawn or dusk?
Which is my favorite?
Dawn
I'm
or
going to
dusk?
say probably dusk.
Ooh, yes,
Yes,
yes. All right. Are you a dog person?
I am.
Okay, big dogs or small dogs?
I've got one of each. So I'm right down the middle.
Equal opportunity. That's how I am. I'm a really big one and a really small one too. So I
Yes.
equal opportunity.
Yes, me too.
What's something you could eat for a week straight?
Oh gosh. Is junk food good food? What either one?
What? No wrong answer. What could?
Well, I'll tell you, my one junk food that I absolutely love that I will indulge myself until the bottom of all of it is gone,
Mhm.
and that would be Frito scoops
Ooh,
and the Frito bean dip that they make. I could eat
ooh.
both of those until I hit the bottom of the bag, and yeah, that's my indulgence for my snack.
That sounds so good.
Oh, hold on just a second.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, somebody was trying to call. I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
That I said that's no problem. That's no problem. So, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Butter pecan.
Oh yes.
I
Oh
love
yes.
it.
That
I
is
love it.
so good. What is
Yes.
what is your favorite season?
I like, well, a lot of people like fall. I like spring because you're coming out of that winter where we've not seen anything green,
Mhm.
and just watching those little seedlings sprout, even if I'm still cold, mentally, it gets me in that headspace that the garden's coming. So I get so excited. I love spring.
I I I love it. Now you don't this next question, if you want to answer it, you can. If you don't, it's okay. Do you
Okay.
snore? Do you snore?
I've been told yes. But now, of course, I have no evidence of that, and I have not heard any video or recordings.
So it is proven false for now.
Yeah.
What is your favorite childhood TV show?
Oh, wow. I was a Gilligan's Island lover. I absolutely loved Gilligan's Island. That
Yes,
might be showing my age too. And there was somebody on there named Ginger, so I was like,
yes,
"Hey."
yes, and she was the model. She was
Yes,
very
she
cute.
was. Yes, yes, she
Yeah,
was.
you know what? It's showing my age too. I love
I
it.
know, right?
What was your last Halloween costume?
Oh, I haven't dressed up in years, but my husband and I went to a Halloween party once, and it was when the TV show was really popular. But we went as Tim the Toolman Taylor and Heidi. It
Oh
was super fun. Yes.
I
We
love
had
that.
the little belts, we had hard hats, we had, the boots, the work boots, and he
Yes.
even got me an extra hammer to put in my tool belt. It was awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. I that show, and it's funny because that art that I do, that's
Yes.
him. I'm the female version of Tim the Tool Man.
Yes.
That's me.
Yes. I loved it.
So cake or pie?
I'm gonna say cake because I
Okay.
love lemon cake. That is my oof.
Oh,
That is my downfall. If anybody makes a lemon cake, you could have 10 different cakes, chocolate, cinnamon swirl, whatever, spice cake. You got a lemon cake, that's the one I'm going to.
with
So,
a little
cake.
bit of like a drizzle on top. Do you do that?
Hmm. Yes.
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 Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Is double dipping at a party ever acceptable? And this is a good one because Thanksgiving's this week. So,
Yes.
all you
Um,
viewers, answer the question in the chat. Is double dipping at a party ever acceptable? I want to know what you guys think. No,
no,
I
no.
agree.
Me and my rule is just fine, but no.
No, I
Uh-uh.
don't agree either.
Mm-mm. No.
What was your first celebrity crush?
Oh gosh, that was probably Leif Garrett.
Oh,
Yeah, that's really old. See, I'm really showing my age now.
we're not that far apart in age, so you're showing with me. Okay, we're doing it together, hand
And
in hand.
and yeah, and he looks horrible now.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Not
Life
what it
has not been good to him.
was.
But
No,
I think he went through struggles and he's come back. So I'm sorry. I don't want to hate and be negative, but
no,
yeah.
no, no, not what he
Oh,
was when you had the crush. How's that
he
sound?
was my teenage heartthrob crush. I had posters of him on my wall. I bought those teen pop magazines, and every page that had him, I tore that out and put it up. Yeah, it was Leif Garrett. Or
What?
Leaf, however you say it. Leif Garrett, Leif Garrett.
Yes, yes. Oh, I did the same thing all over the wall, and it was like, oh. Okay, are reindeers real creatures?
I'd like to think they are.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, but I'd like to think they are.
With Christmas coming, yeah, absolutely. There's something magical about Christmas, and
Yes, to keep
I
that
agree
little twinkle in your eye and keep your spirit going. Yes.
when you have 4 kids, correct?
Yes.
So whenever they were little, did you put out reindeer feed for the
Mm.
reindeers?
No, we just did the cookies and stuff. When the twins came around and we were dealing with that, one of the things that came, one of the movies was that, gosh, what is it called with Tom Hanks? He was animated. It was something
Yes,
Express.
yes, Polar Express.
Polar Express, yes. And the little bell.
Yes.
We searched all over the world, it seemed like, trying to find a couple of those little bells.
Mm.
And finally ended up finding some of them. And that was just the magical. I mean, I hope everybody, and if they remember and they know, they can say, but I hope they remember the significance of the bell and
Absolutely.
in the movie and everything. And oh, my kids, the twins, their eyes just lit up when they saw those bells. Yeah. It was almost better than the present that they got. So it was really neat.
Oh, that movie is so neat. We had an opportunity to meet Tom Hanks in 2019, and
Yeah.
my husband asked him if he could punch the little, the tickets, if he could actually
Yes.
do it. And they both laughed about it. I don't remember what the answer was from him, but he, in person, his brain is so magnificent. It goes 100 miles an hour, but he like thinks and responds really fast in person.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
he is a hoot. I'm just gonna say that.
Yes.
I
Oh,
liked it.
good.
So but that was the one question my husband asked him was, "Can you punch the
Yes.
tickets fast
Yes.
enough?"
That's
So
awesome.
if you could ask God one question, what would it be?
Oh my heavens. How is everybody up there that's my relatives?
Say that again.
How are how's everybody that's my relatives that I've lost? How are they doing?
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that question.
That would, because you
Oh,
always wonder once they're gone, how are they? You know?
yes. Yes.
So that would
Yeah.
be my question. I've in the last probably I think it's 4 years, I have lost my dad passed away and my older brother passed away.
Oh,
So and
Ginger.
of course, my grandma, my grandpa are up there, and I have another older brother that passed away unexpectedly when he was young. I say younger, he was like 47.
Well, he's
Um,
younger.
that
Yes.
was young, yeah. And so he passed away. So I have a whole bunch of people up there, and I just want to know how they're doing. I
Yeah.
miss them all so much.
I bet they're all dancing,
I hope so.
no
And I
hurt.
hope they're cheering me on.
Yes, I bet you they are. I bet you they are. My grandfather is up there, and my mother-in-law. But
Mm.
my grandfather, I have to just say that he was a pastor for
Hmm.
5 years, and when he passed away, I would never say this in a bad sense. You just kind of have to understand being a pastor's granddaughter. My
Yeah.
perspective. It was the most fun funeral I've ever been to.
Yes.
It because you knew where he went, right?
Hmm.
And, all these pastors came in that were friends with my grandparents, and they were laughing as they were saying their goodbyes to him, and it was just such a joyful moment. He picked on me a little bit on the last day he was alive, and I'm like, "Okay, grandpa, okay," and so I for you, but it lasted 3 hours, and
Wow.
it was in the dead of winter, and he was a veteran, and the
Oh.
first driver was like, "You need to hurry up because all the Army soldiers and the, American Legion people are all freezing, standing there waiting to pay their last respects."
Yes.
But when I think about when his funeral, I know he's up there dancing because,
Yes.
just so I don't know, just I always tell people they're probably up there dancing, having a good time, no hurt body,
Yes.
looking down, making sure you're okay, but back to that having fun with the Lord. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Kind of
Yes. That's what
that's
I hope for too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what was the last song you listened to? It's okay, no wrong answer.
Gretchen Wilson, a redneck woman. I love
Yes!
Gretchen Wilson.
Oh my god, I love that song too. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, I love it. You wanna know what mine
Yes,
was? Do you know who Seth Ennis is? He's a country singer,
I
younger
think
guy.
so. It sounds familiar.
There's a song called "Call Your Mama." So all you kids, listen to the song and call your mama.
That's funny. That's
What?
funny.
So do you eat cereal?
Not really.
Okay,
No,
I'm gonna
yeah.
pass on that question. Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you keeping secrets?
Not very good. Well, somebody's secret. Like not like what's your
Oh, you're
present. I can't hold in what your present is. You know, if I got you something for Christmas, I'm gonna blab it. But yes, I I can't stand it. I love for people to give presents, so I'm like, I got something for you, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what it is.
Well, I'm talking about the
um,
fun side of secrets, the personal side.
oh yes, I am very good at keeping secrets.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
because
I
I
figured.
believe that everybody, if somebody confides in you and then asks you to keep it to yourself, it's because they're not ready to share it with everyone yet, just one person. So,
Yes,
yes.
yes. And I have a hard time with this, but I forget what they tell me. So it's almost in their favor if they tell me something
Yeah.
they're not supposed to share, as I forget. And they're like, oh, I forgot about that. I find myself
Yeah.
doing that. I'm like, so yeah. So I'm a good secret keeper as well. With the
Yes.
business gifts, I used to be the kind of I gotta show you, but now I'm like, nah, I can keep this on the down low, and poker face
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
That's funny.
sourdough or wheat?
Wait.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not really a sourdough person very much. I mean, it's okay, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're not a sourdough person. That's okay.
Yeah.
So you like the wheat better. Um,
Yes.
so what's for dinner tonight?
Probably leftover lentil soup. I made an
Oh,
Italian sausage lentil soup, and I
I
have probably a good amount left, and that will round out the rest of it. I've shared some with friends. Um, we ate some, and so I have just a little bit left, and I think that's probably going to be what it is.
oh I saw that video and I'm gonna be making that one.
Oh,
That
it
looks
is really
so
good.
good.
Thank you.
My last question is if Darth Vader offered you a hug, would you accept it?
Oh, sure, I hug everybody. Well, except the weird people. He is kind of weird, but I mean,
He is
yeah,
weird. Yeah,
I wouldn't, I mean, because he's James Earl Jones, right? He's a nice
absolutely.
guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd give him a hug.
You know what? I am a hugger too, and I'm like, just bring it in. You need.
Yes.
I want to say you need 50. There's a poem, and I can't remember each of the boxes, but the final number is that you need 15 hugs to survive every single day.
Yeah.
So that's why I always end it with make sure you give somebody a hug because it's important.
Yes, that's great. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ginger, do you have any questions for me?
No, how did you get Grace and Fire?
Okay.
And how
Yeah.
did you get that channel name? That's something that always I thought if I ever talk to her on the phone or something, I'm going to ask her how she came up with that.
So, no secret, I am a caregiver for a combat wounded warrior.
Mhm.
My husband sustained a brain injury in Afghanistan. Okay.
Mhm.
And so, from the time that he came home, I had to take care of him. And it's not as easy as you think because um, I did a volunteer position in the military when I was called a key spouse, and I was trained to welcome in families, and I
Mhm.
was trained to support deployed families. I also was trained to reach out to parents if there was no spouse involved, to reach out to the parents to ensure that they're hearing from their child, right,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
timely manner. And then I also was trained what happens if our service member made the ultimate sacrifice and how
Mhm.
to support that family that's left behind during all of those goodbyes, right?
Yes.
And so the one thing that they never talk about as a key spouse, at least when my husband was in, is what happens if the service member comes back and they're injured, ill, or sick, right?
Mhm.
So I had zero training. There's no books, and it was a taboo subject in my experience. And I had to work with people who didn't understand my husband, even though he was in the medical field. They didn't quite understand the complexity of his injuries, nor did
Mhm.
our hospital that we were at have the medical disciplinaries that he needed. We had to seek
Yeah.
care outside of the military hospitals because we were at a smaller one.
Yeah.
And so when you're thrust into that life, um,
Mhm.
you're dealing with a lot of darts being thrown at you, and it almost feels like you're walking through the pits of hell, is what it
Yeah.
feels like, because you are the person dealing with command, and you're also
Mhm.
dealing with your injured, ill, sick, whatever service member,
Mhm.
right? And a lot
Yeah.
of times you're having to you may be going through a med board process. And what that is they are working on medically retiring or separating you from your branch of service. And
Mhm.
then you have to start life over again. And it's really difficult on these service members because they feel like they failed their branch of service. They've got a lot of guilt. And then you're
Yeah.
put in the VA system and you have to learn that. So
Mhm.
many years ago, I created a statement like a motivation statement, because my life sometimes it feels very difficult and it's lonely, and
Mhm.
there was no support for me at the beginning. There is now. There is help. If I am if any military veteran caregivers are watching, there is help. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to connect you with a couple of good resources.
Mhm.
But um, you know, so my statement was, she is a woman of grace, even in the heat of the fire. And
Oh,
that was really where it just, it's like I have always been that woman of grace. I've given grace to people that didn't deserve it,
yes.
a lot of systems, and I've walked through that fire. So that's where Grace and Fire comes from. It's just about being a caregiver, and
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
yeah, yeah, and you're not alone. If you're in this, there are 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers, according to the 2014 RAND study. So I just want to make sure, if you feel alone and you're
Oh,
watching this,
yes.
you are not alone, and there is
Yeah.
help for you
Mhm.
as well as your number. But caregivers really are hidden heroes. We don't have
Yes.
the recognition that we need. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, so it's a long
That's
story,
awesome.
fire,
That's
but
awesome. I had to
that's
walk over. I didn't realize that StreamYard was going to um, use up as much of my battery as it did. I
oh, oh, I
was
understand.
down to 4%, and I'm like, I better plug in real quick. Yeah.
Oh no, oh no. Well, I'm gonna say that that's our cue, and I'm gonna go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. Um, Thank you so much for joining, and Ginger, thank you for coming
Yes.
on. This
Oh,
interview
thank
was
you
so
for
fun.
inviting me.
If you
This
ever
has
want
been
to,
a black. I would
yeah, oh,
definitely do it
good.
again in a heartbeat.
Well, as I always say, the door is open and the welcome mat is out there, Ginger. Anytime
Oh,
you want to come back,
thank you.
you're always welcome. And you guys, please go check out Not for Nothing Homestead. I'm dropping the links. I've been doing it through this entire chat, but it's also in the description box. Okay, you guys? So, everybody, with that said, make sure you give somebody a hug. We'll see you
Yay!
next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.